Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network. Welcome back to the show. We're excited to have Dr. Pamela Fox joining us here again today, our owner and chief empathy officer. Yes, she's an entrepreneur, clinical director, certified clinical trauma professional, licensed clinical social worker, psychotherapist, social work supervisor, life coach, pastoral counselor at Synergy Counseling and Coaching Center, and of course, Foxfire Outreach Ministries. There's so much to the work that she does. She's joining us again here live from Arlington, Texas, and we want to welcome you back today. How are you?
I'm doing well. Just to let you know, today is Monday, February the 26th, and it is 90 degrees.
You're kidding. God bless Texas. Oh my goodness. A little bit chilly in New York. It's like 50 degrees here today. Amazing. Well, pleasure to have you back here. I wanted to wear as many hats. And I know today we're going to focus on the financial coaching aspect of what you do. But let's get an overview, if you don't mind, Dr. Pam. Tell us a little bit about yourself to start.
I would say, just to share with the audience, and I thank you for that introduction, Jill, that I've been doing the work that I've been doing for a long time. I am an older adult. I call myself an OG. I'm from the South Side of Chicago. They say back on the South Side, it means original gangster. But for me nowadays, it means old grandmother. So I bring a lot of wisdom to the forefront in terms of the work that I do. And I thank you again for that introduction. But I would say, just for us to consider in this new year, still 2024, still getting it ready to go into the third month of this new year, that we want to do more in 2024. We want to be more. We want to pray more. We want to love more. We want to save more. We want to learn more in 2024. So that's the word that I would share with your audience today.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, OG. I love it. And it's PamelaFox.net, right? PamelaFox.net. You mentioned tax season is upon us. Go ahead.
My husband and I are in the process of preparing our taxes right now, and it can be a very onerous thing, but it is necessary. And so I would share with the audience, because I know that in my practice, my private practice, that a lot of my clients, especially my married couples that I work with, have concerns about financial stress. And actually, financial issues can be almost like a top one or two issues for married couples and for couples in general in terms of sources of conflict. So the word I wanted to share with the public today, with your audience today, is some important things that they may find of interest as they prepare their taxes in this season, and as they think about stress reduction, stress management, and financial literacy.
Thank you. And a lot of people don't know. Look, my mom passed away 7 years ago, and love her, miss her. But one thing she taught me before she passed, like, this is how you balance a checkbook. Like, I never balanced a checkbook in my life. And like, there's so much that goes into it. And she showed me all the finances of her home. And at the time I didn't have a mortgage. And I'm like, whoa. I'm like, but how did this happen, Mom? And why did you get a reverse mortgage? I don't understand this concept. So there's teach us. And a lot of the young generation, I'm not young, I'm 46, but I don't think they really understand finances today. Right.
And so that's why, again, this topic is so vitally important to all generations, to the older adults who are retiring, who are already retired or in the process of retiring, and to the young people just entering into the workforce or into entrepreneurship or going to college, that they need to be mindful about the importance of being a good financial steward. So a couple of tips I would bring to the audience for their information is the importance of having a budget. Having a budget, having some sense as to what your revenue is and what your expenses might be. So you can kind of on a monthly basis, even weekly, monthly, ideally writing it down, creating a spreadsheet in that regard, so that you know what your inflow is and what your outgo is. And it helps you keep things in good working order. Something else that's been recommended very highly by financial professionals is to have an emergency fund. You never know when the car is going to break down. Or you never know if you're in your house and something, furnace or air conditioning or something breaks down, or you have to have the plumber come out because your toilet is not working right. So you want to have earmarked some dollars for that emergency fund, ideally as much as you can afford. The recommendation, if you can, based on your budget, is like to get to a goal of 10%. But you may start like with a couple of $100, $500, $1,000, hopefully get to the goal of $2,000 if you can. So those are a
Perfect.
couple of really good tips.
And keep that in a separate fund. Do you recommend keeping funds in the bank? Do you prefer, recommend keeping cash in the house? I mean,
If you have a safe in your house, a safe place or a lockbox, you might want to keep it in the house, because what if something happens at night and you can't get to the bank, or you want to go to the ATM at night,
Hmm.
and then you got to get the plumber to come out right away because the toilet is leaking all over the place, and you want to be able to pay him or her right directly if you can. So it might be wise, just for safety reasons and for in case there's a fire, to put your if you have cash in a lockbox or a safe if you have a home safe. And you don't tell people you have the money; it's not their business. But you put that in that safe place for emergency.
Good to know. And you mentioned 10%. 10% of what should we have? Of our salary?
10% of your salary, your
Perfect.
revenue, whatever your revenue might be.
Mm-hmm.
Not everybody, there's a lot of what they call gig workers out there doing the best they can with what they are able to do. Drivers, driving around, trying to get people from point A to point B. They may not be punching a clock, but they are definitely trying to bring home income for their family. So whatever you can do to try to earmark those dollars for that purpose as best you can.
Got it. I like that little slush fund. We call it a slush fund here in New York.
That's cool. It's cool. But
What else?
the other thing we have to be mindful of is how can we think about getting out of debt? So many people are in just high debt revenue situations, and they got the blues. So the recommendation is to, if you can avoid it, to try not to use credit cards, so because of the high interest rates associated with credit cards. So if you
20
can,
something percent. I just got a card, my update in the mail saying your interest rate's now up to 23 point something percent. I'm like, what?
so you're paying for whatever that meal was, that lovely dinner you had at
Yeah.
23% interest rate. The food is
Oh,
long digested, it's gone,
yeah.
but you still have to pay on that account. So that's a real concern.
Yeah.
And then for some of the young people, they like all the designer this and designer that. Do we really need that stuff?
Mm-hmm.
The designers are getting rich like nobody's business. And the people who are buying those things, those items wear out over time.
Mm-hmm.
Or they become unpopular because it's like a fad thing. So you have to be mindful about that too, because that could be money that could be earmarked for the emergency fund. So something to consider.
All right, good. Loving this advice. And everyone, if you are just tuning in, Dr. Pam Fox can be reached at pamelafox.net. And we're talking today financial coaching, of course, is one of the many things that she can help you with.
So another good thing that people are suggesting, just to be mindful about our finances, again, being a good steward, is to take your lunch to work. What a concept. So you don't have to eat out so much. Maybe you can eat out one day a week, but
Yeah.
if you take your lunch to work, then you know how much you spend on the meal, and you can drink water. Nothing wrong with water.
Mm-hmm.
And then you don't necessarily have to go out and buy that expensive coffee or whatever, maybe once a week.
Bring it in a thermos.
Bring it in a thermos.
Or
Good
two
job.
thermoses if you need two coffees. Or hopefully your office has a K cup, but if not.
Yeah. So all of that goes a long way in
It
terms of
does.
great financial stewardship. We don't even think about it. Because in the course of a week, if you're buying out lunch all the time, you could conceivably spend, I don't know, $30, $40 a week, depending on
Yeah.
where you go. Plus, you have to have gas money for your car. Was it gas money or is it the expensive lunch to be determined?
Yeah. And in New York, if you're in New York City, you lucky getting a sandwich for $20 each day without the drink. So it's expensive.
It's expensive. So it really adds up. So if you do your budget, write it down, make it plain for you and for your partner, if you have a partner, or just for yourself, if you're a single person, that you need to know what's coming in, what's going out. And then you'll be surprised, mind blown about how much excess money you got that you didn't even know about.
Wow. Yeah.
So it's a lot of good little tips that people need to be mindful of. The other thing you mentioned about your mom and just, dealing with taking care of business after someone passes away. I think it's important, especially for older adults and middle-aged people as well, to have a will. Have your paperwork in order.
Ah,
So people are not struggling over your assets, especially if you have real estate or have property, have a house or other assets, that people are not fussing and cussing about what to do with this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes what happens after the loved one passes away, that the family is in total disarray about who's going to get what, who's going to get this, who's going to get that, so forth and so on, because nothing is written down.
Yeah.
So write it down, make it plain, put it in the lockbox.
Let me ask you, does it have to be notarized? I mean, some people don't have a official will with an attorney. Can you leave a piece of paper that's notarized? I've heard of a living will. I'm not sure what that means.
The living will has to do with who's going to take care of you if you become ill.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Okay. So who's going to take care of you if you become ill? The traditional will, as we think about it, has to do with your financial resources.
Mm-hmm.
Who's going to manage your financial resources? And if you can identify in the will an administrator, a person who's going to make sure everything is squared away, that would be a good thing. Because 9 times out of 10, this thing may have to go to court.
Yep.
Especially if you own property. And
Yeah.
so the court wants to know everything's squared away. And so it's
Mm-hmm.
not a whole bunch of this, that, and the other there in the courtroom. So ideally, if one can find a pro bono, if your financials are limited, pro bono, low cost lawyer who specializes in wills and preparation of that regard, that would be the best way to go. If you can't do that and you have to just go with a notarized document, and that's the best you can do, then that's the best you can do. But it might cause some controversy should it have to go to probate court.
Very good to know.
Mm-hmm.
Got me thinking. I'm a mom of two, single mom. I own a home, even though there's a mortgage, and I have some savings, right? So I don't even have a will for my kids. What would happen if I pass and they're too young?
Right.
Oh boy, oh boy.
So it all has to be written down.
Okay.
So because even if you can think that sometimes even at the funeral, there's controversy. The funeral planning, and then sometimes for some families, you see drama at the meal, the repast that occurs after the funeral or at the funeral. Because people are like, they're in their feelings, they're upset, they're stressed, they're grieving. And depending on the nature of the relationship they had with the loved one who's now deceased, it can bring up some other feelings for them too. So the more you dispel all that drama and trauma before the fact, it's really a good thing for the person who's passed away and for the loved ones who are remaining. So get your paperwork in order. In other words, get your paperwork house in order. That's a good thing.
Okay, good.
But the other thing in that regard too, that is a really good thing to have, in addition to the will and the living will, and who's gonna, in the case that you're not able to make some healthcare decisions, who's gonna be your designee for that? That's a whole nother document as well. But the other thing I would have the audience be mindful about is about having life insurance. Life insurance.
That's confusing. Term and whole, right? Because that's also tricky. Could you just share the difference with that? Since you are a financial coach, I get confused.
So the term is just like, it's just going to basically pay for funeral expenses. The whole life is going to give you more money to pay off more stuff. Like a whole life plan can, depending on the purchase price and how much you invest into it, can pay off your house. But you have to have a health exam and all that stuff. You don't want to wait till you're like 1,000,000 years old to get it and stuff like that. So the term insurance, for the most part, is something like pays for funeral expenses or cremation expenses. And then the whole life can pay off larger expenses. So that's important. The life insurance is important. And then health insurance is important. And especially as we get older, the long-term care insurance. Long-term care, if you get sick and you're not able to care for yourself, you don't have nobody to take care of you, super expensive. Super expensive. You have to go to a nursing home, assisted living, memory care center, super expensive. And Medicare ain't gonna pay for all that. It's just not. So you have to have another plan. So you have to factor that into your budget as well.
Wow. And then I learned with my father and my mother, once they were overage, then there's also not just you mentioned the insurance, and there's the supplemental insurance that goes along with it too, right?
Right. That's a lot to consider as you get older, especially if you're not going to work. And if you're dependent upon Social Security, for the rest of your life after you retire. Good luck with that. Because the word has it that the fund, Social Security fund, may run out of money, maybe, I don't know, 10, 15, 20 years from now.
That's insane.
And so if you live longer than the typical age, like 75 or something, you live longer than that, then are you still going to have Social Security available to pay for your living expenses?
Wow.
So young people need to be thinking about that, like in their 20s,
Mm-hmm.
like the what if scenario.
Yep.
What if there is no Social Security? Then what am I going to do?
Ooh. Is that legal? Can they really run out and not pay us? Is it not backed by like the government, by the banks? I never thought about that running out. I never even heard of that, but wow.
The government is in a deficit situation.
Yeah,
The only money they have is our money,
true.
the taxpayers' money.
Yeah,
So if the taxpayers, for whatever
runs
reason,
out.
some
Mm-hmm.
crisis happens, they don't have any money to donate to the cause, and then the government's in a deficit situation, they're not going to have any money to contribute to Social Security and other programs. And every tub must stand on its own bottom,
Yeah.
meaning we're going to be on our own, not to scare people.
No, no, my goodness.
So
And let's
we
just
have to.
remind everyone, Dr. Pam, how we can contact you.
My contact information, the best way is through my website, which is www.PamelaFox, all lowercase letters, one word, .net. Again, that's PamelaFox.net. Said that correctly.
All right.
Yeah.
Oh, you are on fire today. Continue this conversation. I hope we're reminding people to remind the younger generations, or if you're the younger generation listening, good time to tune in today because this stuff is important. And
It's very important. It's very important. The young people need to be talking about that emergency fund. So to the best of their ability, while they're really working very assertively in the workforce, they, to the best of their ability, should try to be saving 15 or so percent toward their retirement. So
oh
even if
yeah.
they're in their 20s, they have a good job. They should be trying to really earmark money for that 401k or whatever the plan is that the employer has, or if they're self-employed, to earmark some dollars for the retirement fund, because it's just the right thing to do.
Well, just curious, what is the average amount? Say we retire at 65. Is there an average amount that we aim for in our 401k or in savings? Like what is their recommendation on that? How do you know how much money you should have? I mean, it's probably different for everyone, obviously, but
Yes,
an
it's different
average
for
amount.
everyone.
It's scary to think
The,
about.
some of the research says if you can do it, more than $100,000,
Okay.
more than $100,000. Most people don't have that
Yeah.
because they're not thinking about it.
Mm-hmm.
And that $100,000 is going to go fast. So you really need more than that. And some
Mm-hmm.
people who are really into this whole financial stewardship thing, they have millions
Yeah.
of dollars earmarked in different funds because they know what's up.
Yeah,
They
the
know what's
smart
up.
ones.
Mhm.
Woo. Wow. Oh my goodness. What other tips out there? Fine. For now, let me also ask you this, how does it work with retirement age? Is our retirement age now increasing, decreasing? What's the younger generation like? Because 65 is normal for us, right? In a sense, but now people are working
Depends
later.
on depends on your birth year.
Oh,
For full retirement, and you have to look it up under the Social Security's website, but it's based on your year of birth.
okay.
So if you want the full retirement, and if you have full retirement, you can still work. But if you want the maximum amount of money, then you try to hold off on dipping into the Social Security fund. That's your fund. It's your money. You try to hold off on that as long as you can.
Got it.
So for most people that were born, I think it's after 65,
Mm-hmm.
that the retirement age for them, full retirement, is 67 years old.
Okay.
But the recommendation is for you to, if you can, to
Got
try
it.
to not tap into that until you're 70.
Okay.
Then you get all of your money, you get the maximum amount,
Good tips.
right? But that probably means you have to work till you're 70 years old.
Mm-hmm. And you take that gamble, right? A lot of us pass earlier, but you just don't know. You could be the
Right,
lucky
right.
ones living to 100,
Yes,
but
yes,
yeah.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But some people say, well, I'll just retire at 62. So they
Uh-huh.
retire at 62 or 64, and they're getting like 70%.
Okay.
And whatever you take at whatever age you take the money, that's all the money you get.
Mm-hmm.
There ain't no more money. You're not going to get an increase. You might get like a little cost of living increase or something, but it's not going to be a whole lot of money. So you have to be mindful about that. As long as you're healthy and able-bodied and you're able to work, you should try to work as best you can, one day at a time.
Whew. You got me worried today, but in a good way. It's a good panic.
That's good. It's meant to be thought-provoking
It really
because
is.
some people are just not financially literate. They're
Mm-hmm.
not thinking about this. They're partying and having a good time and what have you, and going out every weekend and so forth. And so there ain't nothing wrong with going out and having a good time.
Mm-hmm.
But you also got to be thinking about
Yeah.
the what if scenario.
Yeah.
Hmm.
All right. Well, we still
Right.
got 5 more minutes, Dr. Pam. What other groundbreaking financial planning advice and coaching do you have to offer us? Because I'm on the
I
edge of
feel
my
like I'm
seat.
stressing people out right now. So I
No,
don't
you
know.
are helping people out like myself. Yes.
The recommendation too, I would say, is if you can do it, to
Mm-hmm.
try not to buy a new car. You buy a used car. Because once you drive the new car off the lot, it begins to depreciate.
Yeah.
The used car, if it's usable, it's got
Mm-hmm.
life still left in it. It's a middle-aged car,
Yeah.
and it can still work and get you to where you want to go. Then that's probably the best thing for you in terms of your monthly car note and the car insurance.
Mm-hmm.
So just something again for folks to think about and to really work hard toward living below your means as best you can. You don't have to have all the glitz and glam and all that stuff, because what's the point? You live below your means, and you don't have to tell all your buddies, your friends,
Yep.
all this that you're doing, because it's not your
Mm-hmm.
business. You share information on the need to know.
True.
If they don't need to know, then you have to tell them that.
Hmm. Hmm. Can I also suggest something? Can we put away a little money per week for like a vacation fund? But that's not
Yes.
really, I mean, because there's going to be a time where you want to go away or someone's going to ask you to go
Yes.
away.
Yes.
It's good to have a little fun, little nuggets of
Yes.
little fun.
Yes.
I
Yes.
noticed the other day on my bank account, I never noticed this before, but it's saying it's using something called buckets. Buckets.
Mhm.
Have you heard that term? So you can
Yes.
put little buckets away for like a vacation
Yes.
bucket. I was like,
Yes.
oh,
Yes.
okay.
Yes. Because for stress management, you do need to. It's not all work and no
Mm-hmm.
play. So you do have to earmark some dollars for vacation or girls' night or whatever you want to do, because it helps you with your stress management.
Yeah.
You can't just work all the time and become a workaholic. So you do have to have time to have fun with people.
Good.
That's the one thing. And see the world. It broadens your horizons when you go
Mm-hmm.
around and travel to other countries and that kind of thing.
All right. All right. So we got 3 more minutes left, Dr. Pam. What else do we have?
Pay off your debts.
Uh-huh.
I know a lot of people are struggling, especially since November, and I'm one of those people. Student loans.
Mm-hmm.
But you got to pay the student loan or you'll be in big trouble. So you got to pay
Yep.
that. That's a
Okay.
must do. So you just work on that as best you can. You pay whatever they ask for you to do as best you can. There's a lot of different payment plans that's out there. And I think there's going to be some revisions to those plans as time goes on this year. I'm thinking that's what I'm hearing. So do pay your bills, do pay your student loans without a problem, with a goal down the road of having, if you can. I know it's a lot. And sometimes for some people, it necessitates that you have more than one job.
Got it.
You might have to have a job and a side hustle,
Yeah.
or what they call mailbox money. That whatever you do, you get a check in the mail. And
Mm-hmm.
that adds to your fund. So that paying off the debt thing, very important. And also, as time and funds permit, trying to earmark some dollars for, again, buckets, a different bucket to have to
Yep.
do 3 to 6 months of your expenses.
Got
So
it.
if something happens, then it's not like I'm going to lose it, that I got
Mm-hmm.
3 to 6 months of expenses. I can pay the mortgage, I can pay the rent, not a problem. Because you got that earmarked in that separate bucket.
Got it. And one quick question about the mortgage. If you have come into extra money, is it smart to pay down your mortgage or is it smart to invest that money? I always get confused with this one.
Because for people that have a house, the mortgage is probably the biggest bill that they have. If you can pay it off faster, that's a good thing, because that thing is stretched out over 20, 30
30
years of
years.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
High
the
interest
faster
rates.
yeah. And so some years ago, people who have been in their house for a long time were like at 4% interest rate.
Mm-hmm.
And then they say, well, I'm going to refinance because I want to get something. They do that, and they wind up increasing their interest rate to like 6, 7, 8%.
Mm-hmm.
And so then their mortgage note kind of balloons. So the faster you can pay that off with any extra money you have, the better off you're going to be, because
Got
you're
it.
decreasing the amount of interest you're paying.
Yeah.
So that's a good thing.
All
That's
right. Love these tips. Dr. Pam Fox, we got to start wrapping it up.
okay.
Tell us how we can reach you. Great show today.
Thank you
And we're
so
going
much.
to talk more about it next week as well, right?
Yeah. Because I want to come
Great.
back because there's more to this
Oh,
story.
there's a lot.
and because again we're in the tax season, people's ears are like really attuned to hearing more about financial literacy and financial stewardship. I wanted to share more with the audience come next week. But in terms of contact information, again, for me, www.pamelafox.net. That's the best way to reach me. I have a private practice, as you've already mentioned, in Arlington, Texas. I'll give you the audience my email address as well. That is drpam@att.net. Again, drpam@att.net. Here to serve the community, here to serve the public as a mental health and wellness provider, and as a transformational life coach, Dr. Pam Fox. I have my shirt on, inspiring you to reach your full and highest potential.
Thank you so much. You have a fantastic day. And to all of our listeners, stay tuned. More of the show's coming right up. Have a fantastic day. Thanks again.
Bye-bye.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
Mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned. This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.